to the Bombad Cast.
What is up, Bombad fam? It is your boy, the Cannon Junkie, and I'm here with my lovely co-host and friend, Scotty.
Oh.
Listen, we're about to talk to Dan. You don't have to read about Dan. We're literally about to talk to him, and everyone else is going to watch. And so,
I'm so excited. So for those that are joining right now, we want to bring in Dan Madsen in just a moment. But the reason why we're doing this is because we want to make this a visual guide to Star Wars Celebration 1999, the very first of many, the very event that brought us together in 2019, and which we'll honor Dan later as well in this experience because he had a moment at that convention as well. But without further ado, let's introduce our friend Dan Madsen. Dan Madsen is a prominent figure in the world of science fiction fandom, best known for creating the Star Wars Celebration fan convention in 1999. As a passionate advocate for Star Wars community, Madsen's vision helped establish the celebration as a premier event for fans worldwide, celebrating the beloved franchise with unparalleled enthusiasm. His deep connection to Star Wars also earned him a brief cameo in the Phantom Menace, further solidifying his legacy within a galaxy far, far away. So without further ado, and a new member of the Bombad fam, the one and only Dan Madsen. Dan, how you feeling, dude?
Welcome, Dan.
I'm feeling much better now that I'm on the show with you.
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing. Listen, we have that effect we hear. So yeah,
absolutely. I've heard that through the rumor vine.
Oh, the rumor. Okay.
Oh, we're in the rumor vine. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll take that.
No, Dan, we've been doing this show now for 5 years. This is our next month is our 5-year anniversary of doing this show together. Congrats. And we met at Star Wars Celebration 2019. So if it wasn't for your trickle down legacy, we wouldn't have had the opportunity to even meet Jerry and I. So we can't thank you enough.
That's awesome news. I mean, it's like one thing just inspires another, and before you know it, it's just it's an endless stream of things that are started just from one thing. So, and if it wasn't for George Lucas making Star Wars, I wouldn't be standing here talking to either of you. So,
exactly. Yeah. It really does bring everyone together. Does it feel like 25 years, Dan?
No, it feels like it does not feel like 25 years. It's a little bit alarming that time goes by so fast. It makes you realize that, perhaps you might have less days ahead of you than you had behind you. So, I'm stunned.
I'd imagine so. And one thing I will say, too, is I want to acknowledge some other friends of ours. So Talking Bay 94 and, of course, Around the Galaxy, Pete Fletcher, Brendan Winerdy as well at Talking Bay. They had done amazing interviews with you, in version of a podcast. We're more of a visual medium here at the Bombad Cast as well. So we wanted to do our best to make this more of a visual experience because when I went looking, Dan, I could not find that many photos of this event, because I had to go deep into the internet. I know they also didn't have video at the event. Is there any videos out there at all that you may have personally or no? Because I couldn't find a single video.
No, I don't have any videos. What's funny is that on the while the celebration one was going on, somebody, and I don't know who he was making a videography of the whole celebration one, but what he did with it, I have no idea because I've never seen anything pop up.
God, that'd be incredible.
If you're watching this or anything, put that online, man. We would love to see that. Absolutely.
I'm an archivist, Dan, and if someone wanted to send me that VHS footage or whatever they filmed it on, I will take time out of my life to get that out there because I've never seen videos from this event.
And it was after the whole event was over and we were cleaning things up in the hangar. They asked me to come over, and so I sat there and did about a 30-minute interview with him. And I never saw that. I failed to ask him what it was for. I think it was just he was making his own independent documentary about the first celebration. And
my!
What happened to that is who knows.
So this event,
insane. That's almost like George Lucas now. He's just making movies for his family at home, right? Yeah. So yeah.
This event obviously was in hype for the Phantom Menace, and we just crossed its 25th anniversary. And I was very happy to say I was excited to see you on that screen when you had that little moment with the Cadu. But it's so weird, that movie, and you said this before the recording happened, that was kind of our generation's movie now. You seem like
Apologies.
you seem like an accepting kind of fan, because I know most people that were older at the time were not the biggest fans of the Phantom Menace. But did you like it when you saw it initially?
I did, actually. There were a few things that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but I actually did. I did like it. And it was painful to see at that time, all the people who were coming out and bashing it. It was very, very, very hard, very, it really hurt to see those kinds of comments coming out about it. But 25 years later, Phantom Menace has come into its own. I think a lot of people, those haters, have turned into lovers of the film now. It's held up well over 25 years.
It really has.
I was just, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who used to not like the movie and have come around. There's someone in our space. I don't know if you know Ken Knapsack or not, but he was someone who didn't really like the prequels and has come around on them. And you know, like so many people on thinking on it for a little while, stewing on it, will come back to it and go, there's a lot to love here and stuff. And so that all the mean spiritedness from the 90s is now young people who are, dogging the sequels, but we won't talk about that right now anyway, because we don't really care about the negativity. So
now, 25 years from now, the sequels will all be they'll be beloved, and nobody will be complaining about them again. But you guys are a prime example of the fact that George made episode 1 for people like you, your age, and now you've grown up 25 years later, and so you have the nostalgia and fond memories of seeing episode 1 in the theaters. I'm original series fan, so I remember seeing the first Star Wars when I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
And so awesome. that was my era. Now the prequels are kind of like your era.
Yeah. And it's such an interesting thing to have happen, because like we're in an era now where Star Wars is everywhere, and there's a new show coming out next week, and Bad Batch ended a few weeks ago. And like this was truly after a drought of like 16 years. And this event that you put on, which we're going to look at pictures in just a moment, was kind of like the breaking point of, okay, it's here. We're right there. And I know y'all showed footage at the event. Y'all had a ton of interviews, which we'll look at. But I couldn't imagine the weight on your shoulders in that moment, because there was a lot of people showing up to this event. There was like what, 25,000 about
30,000 was what we figured. And that's minor compared to what they get at the celebrations now. But at the time, that was a huge convention. And it's I've said in other interviews, and I'll say it again, I don't believe there has ever been a more exciting time to be a Star Wars fan than in that year going up to Phantom Menace opening. I mean, everybody had been waiting so long to see a new Star Wars movie. And quite frankly, George gave nobody any hope that he was going to, because he'd always say, well, I plan on getting around to it at some point, but he never did. And so everybody figured, okay, well, we got the 3 Star Wars movies, and that's it. But when the news came out that he is actually starting work on the first prequel, I mean, the excitement level went out the roof. And as each month, as we kept going closer and closer to episode 1, the excitement was just palatable. You could feel it everywhere. Everybody was thinking to themselves, oh my God, we're actually going to get to go see a brand new Star Wars movie in the theaters. And I mean, that's like, that's like finding a pot of gold. I mean, people were just elated. And I don't think even in the time period moving up to The Force Awakens, I still don't think that was anything close to what the time period was moving up to episode 1. It was a whole different time and feel.
It was everywhere. I mean,
we had the Clone Wars. I'm sorry. Sorry.
I was going to say,
we had the Clone Wars there.
Well, you got the Clone Wars. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
But it was so surreal. I don't know. I couldn't even imagine.
It was. Yeah, it was, and we were kind of Star Wars central right at that time. We did the official fan club. We had the Star Wars Insider magazine. we were also the official merchandise partner for shopstarwars.com, which was just really kind of starting up at that time. You know, the internet was not what it is today back then. And then, you know, having this placed in our lap to do the very first Star Wars celebration, I mean, you know, it was like the whole world was was kind of coming to Denver, Colorado here and asking and looking into Star Wars, and we were ground zero at that time.
Yeah. And you know, I have to acknowledge it because it is important to say, but the event, you know, of itself, the event of Star Wars Celebration, the first one was in Colorado, which for those that do not know, and it's the first time hearing this, wasn't it like right around 10 days after the Columbine shooting? Wasn't it like,
yes, it was actually a couple of weeks. It was a couple of weeks before celebration. And Anthony Daniels had flown out 2 weeks prior to the event and was staying with me, and he was helping me design the whole show, and we were talking about the script and what we were going to do. And one afternoon he and I were sitting in a restaurant bar having a drink, and lo and behold, you know, there's a news station on there in the bar, and we kind of look up, and this horrible story about this mass shooting at Columbine High School. And Anthony and I looked at each other, and I said, "Oh my God, that's horrible." We not even thinking for a moment that was going to affect the celebration until we got back to the office. And later that afternoon, I get a call from Jim Ward, the head of marketing at Lucasfilm, and Howard Rothman, the head of licensing. And they said, after what had happened, they said, "You know, I think we need to cancel the event. This is not a good time to be doing a celebration of any kind, and we feel it might be tacky and happening right there in the same city." And so Anthony and I did the first thing we could do, which was to argue that this thing still needed to go and it needed to happen. That Denver needed a shot in the arm, a piece of positiveness that after this horrible tragedy. And so they said, "Well, let us talk to George and we'll all get back on the phone tomorrow." So Anthony and I really kind of tried to figure out how we were going to convince them that this was what was needed. I went straight to the mayor of Denver and I asked him, funny thing is, that was back when faxes were in, and I asked him to fax a letter to George at Lucasfilm, letting him know how the city of Denver felt, that they felt it needed to happen, that this was a good thing, that to disappoint all these fans would just be contributing more to the evil of these two shooters that had taken this tragedy upon Columbine High School. So long story short, obviously it happened. We talked them into it. And, part of the deal was that, we had to raise some money for the victims of the Columbine shooting. And we did. We went to Columbine themselves and said, "We'll pay for it, but can we get some little ribbons done in the colors of Columbine? And for everybody that comes into the celebration, they'll each get a ribbon and they can wear it on their shirt." And then we had a booth there where people were able to donate. We raised over $30,000 over the weekend for Columbine. And but it was surreal. It was just such a surreal time with that happening just right before celebration. And then, because of this, the intensity around what had happened, Lucasfilm had to make demands that said, if you're coming in cosplay, you can't bring your blaster. No guns, no weapons, no nothing. You have to check it at the door or you can't come in. It was, and then at the very beginning, the opening ceremonies of the event, I came out first and asked for a minute of silence to pay tribute to the Columbine students who were killed. And the tragedy of it actually even hit home, because one of the kids that was killed was a huge Star Wars fan, and his parents said he had bought tickets. He was planning on being at our celebration.
Oh my God!
So it really hit home when we heard that one of the kids was looking so forward to coming to the celebration, and his life was cut down by these evil monsters. So that made it even more special for us. That thought we have to do something appropriate
Of course.
honor to honor those victims.
Wow.
Right.
It's
Absolutely.
and look, we're gonna start looking at pictures too of this event. And obviously, you know, I'm gonna look out for the ribbons. I never noticed that. I'm gonna start looking out for the ribbons in the photos.
I was gonna
as well.
say, yeah, I never knew that
Yeah.
either. That's incredible.
Yep. Yep.
So here we go. The legacy of this event. I'm so excited. Now, Dan, feel free to stop and, you know, elaborate on some of these images. You know, this first one we got of you with Kenny Baker, obviously dressed for your cameo in the Phantom Menace, but we'll get to that a little bit later.
Okay.
So I wrote here, let's time travel. All images are sourced from various randomly selected websites on the internet. However, a significant portion in particular are attributed to Rob de Deslongchamps. That's someone you know, right? That's one of your friends, isn't it?
He's my best friend. He was there
Oh,
with me the entire time at Celebration, and he was kind of like the sidekick, and everything I saw and did, he did as well. So he was there witnessing it firsthand.
wow. That's amazing.
That's incredible.
I will
That's
say
so
one
good.
thing here. I do not tell my wife, no one, but I just ordered a $40 original poster from Celebration. I just got the eBay confirmation that I wanted it. So it's that exact poster. I'm gonna put it up.
I love that.
She'll find out tomorrow.
I just, as an aside, John Alvin did the artwork for that.
Okay.
And I decided I wanted John to do it. And so I called up John. John had been a good friend of mine. He'd done some art for The Insider before. And so I told John, I said, you know, I really want you to do the official poster, John. And he said, well, what is it that you want? So he asked me to draw a sketch of what I thought the poster would be. And so I drew something kind of like what you're seeing here on the screen, but not quite. And so I sent that, you come back to me and you show me what you think is good. And so he came back with a black and white sketch, which almost exactly as what you see on the screen here.
Wow.
And so we went back and forth on tweaking it here and tweaking it there till he did the final art. And then he overnighted us the final art. And it was just, you think the poster is beautiful. You should have seen the original art. And it's interesting because the original art the deal I made was that he got to keep the original art. But I got to keep all the initial sketches and drawings that he did that led up to the final piece. And years ago, Steve Sansweet bought those from me. So
no way.
Those are proudly displayed in the Rancho Obi-Wan.
I gotta
That's
go.
incredible.
Look, and I
gotta go see that too.
I made a joke of it earlier, but I found this. This is the weirdest thing. I found this. I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Dan, and I found this in a garage sale in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So I don't know how it traveled from Colorado all over here, but it ended up here. But that poster,
we're everywhere, man.
I have a special relationship with this poster because at the panel that was the 20th anniversary of the Phantom Menace back in Chicago, there was a person sitting right in front of me, and it got me emotional. I might get emotional talking about it now. It was an older guy, and he had his original Celebration shirt on. And I think one of the questions the DJ asked was like, "Who was there at the first one?" And this older guy stood up. He was like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Man, that's how it should be." You know,
awesome.
Still going. But
I love that because the world today. I mean, a lot of the younger fans, they were too young to have ever been to the first one. So you hear people talking today and they'll, I was at Celebration 3 and I was at 4 and some say I was at 2, but it's rare sometimes to find people who were at 1 because it's just it was a much smaller number of people that were at that first one than the 100,000 people that have been at the other celebrations in Chicago and Indianapolis and Anaheim and on and on.
Of course. And there was some cool things I found when doing this research, Dan. I found all these articles hyping up the event. And I mean, this is, I believe, a local publication in Colorado. But I mean, did you feel the pressure? Were you feeling the bubbling of that pressure as that event got closer?
Big time. I mean, I realized I had never run an event before. So this was my first time producing an event. And this wasn't just any event. This was the event. And so, we spent months and months and months of, every element had to be analyzed and looked at, where it was going to be held and how it was going to be held and who were going to be the sponsors of it and what we were going to have from a merchandising standpoint that all had to be worked out with Lucasfilm, and then coordinating the actual artifacts that were going to be in the archives and which of those were going to ship out and be on display, and had to have insurance for all of those priceless artifacts, and we had to buy display cases and such to put those in, because we didn't have anything at the time. And then shipping out a life-size X-Wing fighter, that's no small task either. So,
but the look at the location of this event for those that are watching it with us right now. This was not in a typical convention hall, which is what I thought was so interesting. It's in a hangar, right, Dan?
It wasn't meant to be that way. We wanted to have it in the Colorado Convention Center. Unfortunately, it had been booked for all the weekends up to when episode 1 was opening. And Lucasfilm was adamant that they wanted this to happen 2 weeks before the event. So we weren't given any leeway. It was kind of like this or nothing.
Right.
So when the convention center didn't open up, I had to put my thinking cap on, and we had to go look around and what was available. And we came to the Air and Space Museum in Lowry, the former Lowry Air Force Base. And they had already just started really doing events in their big main hangar. So I came over there with my crew, and we looked around. Son, we could put this here, we could that there. We realized that there wasn't enough space for everything. So we came to the conclusion we're going to have to put what is only I can describe as giant circus tents outside the hangar. And that's where the main stage would be. And then the second stage would be. And because that would hold, 1,000 people, and with a big stage and such. And so Anthony was there, and he was making sure the sound system was working right. And he had the lights. I want the lights here, here, and here. And he worked with our lighting crew. And, Anthony had a lot to do with how that first celebration looks and sounds. And
that's so cool.
He's my hero, and we've been dear friends ever since. And, and there you go. And then we had the worst rain in 100 years hit Denver. Wouldn't you know it? And,
Look,
that's
isn't
Lynn
that
Hale.
Lynn Hale? Yes, that's Lynn Hale.
Lynn Hale, and that's Jim Ward, the former marketing man at Lucasfilm. And Lynn just retired from Lucasfilm.
Yes, she did.
So that's us, talking to each other about, oh my God, what's going to happen with this rain? And I mean, we had every media outlet from around the world. I mean, from Japan and from Australia and from Canada. And I mean, there was all kinds of media coverage that were coming to Denver to do. That's my favorite picture from the event. I just think that is so retro, cool Star Wars.
Yeah.
And it was taken on the last day that didn't rain. So that's why there's blue sky, and it's not, these people aren't being soaked.
They're so well lit.
Yeah, there's a timeless aspect to this image because these are all obviously like original trilogy looking characters, and like you couldn't even tell if this was the 70s or the 90s or today. And I kind of love that.
It looks like a shot from E.T. almost when they're out for Halloween.
It does with the Yoda there. I mean, I just love it because it's such a retro looking image. And that for me is my favorite celebration photo of all of them that I've ever seen.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's a good one.
Let us know if there's some that you haven't seen in these, because I went digging. I mean, I'm a researcher by trade too. I'm a teacher, so I'm always doing research. And like my last week of work, I had no kids because I teach 8th grade. So this whole last week, I was working on this slideshow, just finding stuff. And of course, I know you love Rick McCallum too. Rick McCallum is one of my dream guests. I have his email.
Absolutely.
He is one of my favorite people ever.
And Rick is the one who coined the phrase, and he got out through me. On the second day of the event, the main stage was going. It was just pouring rain outside. I was backstage, and Rick was back there, and I said, "Oh my God, Rick!" I said, "This rain is just." I said, it couldn't wait. It had to happen the same weekend we were doing celebration. And he said, Dan, he says, I wouldn't have it any other way. He says, years and years from now, people are going to look back at this and call it their Star Wars Woodstock. They survived the rain and the mud, and that didn't dampen their enthusiasm. And they can always say, I was at Star Wars Woodstock. And I passed that story on. And now there's a lot of people who refer to Celebration 1 as Star Wars Woodstock.
I mean, it's the same vibes. I agree.
It absolutely was. You got the outdoor festival feel and things like that. The kind of like Yeah, it was controlled chaos.
So
from what it
that's a
sounds
good
like.
way to describe it. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Controlled chaos is exactly right.
To me,
That's the
this
best events.
is a great image that explains the I guess the collaboration of this event, because now Celebration takes place and it's put on by Reed Pop and it's like this huge thing. But I was doing some research and correct me if I'm wrong. Apparently, this is like a local ROTC program, and they were in charge of parking. They were in charge of parking. Oh, that I love that. That feels like it feels like a Mardi Gras parade thing that we have down here.
Absolutely, that is exactly correct. And I mean, the idea of holding it in an old Air Force hangar, really kind of appealed to Lucasfilm, because it had there's X-wing fighter sitting next to a real jet fighter from World War II and such, and it's the whole idea of mixing history with fantasy, was very attractive, and it was very cool. And so if we could have just taken the rain away, it would have been fantastic. And every year, I kid you not, every year that this anniversary comes of the weekend that Celebration happened, I swear to God, it's blue sky, sunny and warm. There's no rain whatsoever. And I thought the one damn weekend that we needed it was the one it didn't happen. We had the worst rain in 100 years, and every weekend ever since that time up to right now has been sunny, blue sky and warm here in Denver.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
And
look, I want to go back.
It must have been meant to be that would happen on that weekend. It
had to happen. It had to happen to solidify that Star Wars Woodstock.
It was the baptism.
And that's the thing, and Steve Sansweet called me from Lucasfilm about doing an event, and we had already been thinking about doing one. He said we really want it to be done by the fans for the fans, and man, I'm telling you what, that's exactly what this first one was. It was put on by fans for fans. We had Lucasfilm helping us, but I had 100 employees at that time. And I had probably another 100 volunteers that were within the Denver metro area. So those 200 people that came and worked the event were all true blue fans, loved Star Wars. And so it really was an event by fans for fans.
See, and this is something else I want to bring up too. So Jerry and I had been covering the Phantom Menace the last 6 weeks on this podcast stream, and we covered the marketing, we covered everything, and I love that iconography is still here, like the Pepsi cans, the KFC trucks. That's all I'm thinking.
I was going to mention the KFC trucks earlier too.
It's amazing.
Did they cater? I guess is what happened there. KFC cater, I guess. KFC cater. I guess we had Taco Bell, we had KFC, the trifecta,
Pizza Hut, and what's amazing is that every one of those fast food joints, if you went to any of them around the country, there was an ad for the fan club on every single one of them. We grew so fast from that because every bag of Kentucky Fried Chicken, there was an ad, join the official Star Wars fan club on it, and then all three of them were our food servers at the event. So they were all there, and you could get whatever you wanted: Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, or what was the other one? I can't think what it was.
KFC.
KFC. Yeah, you could. They were the ones there serving the food.
So in my hometown as a kid, the KFC and the Taco Bell were right across the parking lot from each other. So I was begging my parents to do a circle, to get all the toys and stuff like that. I'm telling you, that was a fun time.
I remember the toys very well. Absolutely.
So this next portion of the slideshow, you can see the Legos obviously are a huge tradition now at Celebration, where you can go up and actually put a piece of the Lego together with an instructor there, and then they add it to the overall sculpture. And I just love to see that these are the seeds that are being planted for things that I would see in 2019 and then 2022 and then 2017. It's fascinating. And I love this photo of Anthony Daniels. This is when he went outside, right, and was greeting people. Was this around there
was a long line of people that were waiting to get into the main stage. It was just pouring rain. I mean, I felt so bad. We tried to put up some more tents that people could stand under, but there's only so many we could get. Right. But he went out with an umbrella, and he went down the line and greeted and said hi to every single person standing in the rain. And I'm telling you what, to this day, I hear people say, I'd have stood in that rain 3 times longer if I knew I was going to get Anthony Daniels come by and I got to meet him face to face, and so Anthony made that bad situation and he turned it into a really good situation. And that's what I say. That's why I say he's my hero, because he went beyond the call of duty to ensure that we had the best convention we could have.
And for those that don't know and they haven't read it, in Anthony Daniels' autobiography, Dan is of course mentioned as well as this event and Scott Chernoff. So that it shows that it wasn't just a thing that meant a lot to Dan, but it meant a lot to him as well, that they got to do this convention together, which I think is incredible. And I love these pictures here because this, like you said, this iconography was everywhere, especially at those 3 fast food chains. I saw it at Albertsons. You just couldn't escape it.
I saw all these.
Go ahead.
It was, everywhere. Everywhere you turned, it was there. I was just going to say, these badges, I have them burned into my brain because they were in Insider, the first Insider that had all that. I remember. I mean, I would look at these magazines. These magazines were worn out. The covers would fall off. I would be flipping through these multiple times. And by the way, forever before I saw the movie, I thought, Scotty laughs at this all the time, I thought that Sebulba, there was an article about Sebulba, I think in one issue of Insider. I and a friend of mine, I pronounced it Sebulba. And we went and saw the movie, and I changed to what it said in the movie, and my friend was like, no, I like Sebulba better. I was like, okay, all right, fine, man. But that's just it. But yeah, just, to be a kid and have that kind of access to that kind of a thing was just such a great thing. And to see all this event, this was something I dreamed of going to as a kid. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was amazing. Hasbro was there with a massive booth, and you could buy all of the action figures. Actually, some of the first action figures, they actually didn't buy them. You could go see them all. But in our store, they had, I think, 4 or 5 of the very first. There you go. That's part of the store.
That's it.
There you go. The first place to buy any of the Hasbro Episode 1 action figures was in our store.
Wow.
That's incredible.
And
I tell you, I want that Darth Maul jacket.
The Darth Maul jacket.
That Darth Maul jacket's incredible.
And one of the cool things is that we had those specially made, and I had my entire merchandise team in my company was designing and making all of these. And they surprised me at the end of the event and gave me a Darth Maul embroidered jacket just like that you're seeing here on the screen.
Oh, that's awesome.
It fits me. It's the only one that's made my size, and it's a one of a kind, and they made a small one so that it would fit me, and that was very touching that they made a jacket that would fit me and nobody else. It's the only one exists now.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, that's so great. That's so heartwarming. Yeah.
One thing I love looking at these images because obviously 20 years from now, a kid, close to my age at this point is going to look at celebration pictures from 2019 and be like, oh my God, y'all are playing, the Nintendo Switch and y'all had this at y'all's event. But when I see these and I see trading cards, which are still as relevant as they are now. And you see Hasbro, which still have huge events. You see the pod race flags in the back. This just makes my heart so warm. Apparently this is the StarWars.com booth. Is that what this is? Or this is?
I think so. I think it is. Yeah.
Incredible. And look, and here's the arcade game area and the merchandising area. And the watches, I had those watches growing up. So it's weird. It's like you facilitated this entire event, and then it's a weird trickle down thing where I was too little to know this existed. Jerry was at the perfect age to know this existed, and I look at this.
Yeah,
now,
I was envious as a 12-year-old. I was like, man, I wish I had my own money. I could grab a bus ticket and make it down there.
Even though it wasn't as big as Celebrations now in the store area, you could have still spent a fortune buying everything that we had for sale there at the event.
I would have ruined my parents had I gone to this in '99.
And well, the early Lego statues are so cool to
Oh,
look at.
yeah.
And this
Those
is
are
the part
so
I
incredible.
love. So this is the archiving part you were mentioning earlier. So these were like the actual maquettes they had and
That's
like
correct.
the models. I mean, look at this. This is incredible detail.
Yeah.
That's the detail on that is incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit nerve wracking when they all of these things came shipped in big giant wooden crates that we had to insure, and when they came, I hired security people 24 hours to stay all around these crates, and so nobody could do anything. And I swear to you, it was it just I had butterflies in my stomach because I thought I'm responsible for all these items that are priceless, and
Yes.
we can't have anything happen to these things. So it was
Mhm.
that was a bit nerve wracking, but
I,
yeah, and see these display cases, we had to go out and buy those. We didn't have display cases, so in order for us to Lucasfilm to agree to let us show these things, we had to have display cases that they would be secured in, and I don't know how much money we spent just on display cases so we could bring this stuff to Denver.
But like half of it though is like I know these are all screen used props. Like this is the one that gets blown up in that
Yeah.
one shot of the Phantom Menace, and like that's clearly the puppet C-3PO because you see the green screen arms coming out the back of his arms.
Mhm.
Like it's.
Yep.
I mean, I couldn't imagine the responsibility, and at this point too, some of these props, hadn't started deteriorating like they do now, and like
No.
you look at
Yeah.
these X-wings and the Y-wings, and you look at the TIE fighters and the ATSTs, like those things, those things are probably starting to fall apart at this point just because of age and weight.
Oh, yeah.
Anakin's
Well,
pod there as well.
they're all in the archives out at Skywalker Ranch now.
Mm-hmm. And like this is my
That's where
favorite
they are.
part. And correct me if I'm wrong. I believe this pod is still on display in different places. I know it's going to the Lucasfilm Museum, the Lucas Museum, but I know it was a Disney for the longest time. And like
Yeah.
the detail is absurd. I mean,
it's incredible. I mean, look at that. Yeah, I mean, to get to spend some time looking down in there and seeing exactly all the work that went into it, and then of course the life-size X-wing fighter is still on display.
Oh yeah,
at the Wings Over the Rockies Air and Space Museum. It's been put there permanently, so you can still go there and see it.
I love that. That's kind of cool. That Celebration still lives on there, and
It does. There's a piece of Celebration that will always be there, and that's it. There's Rob, the guy that's taking these pictures you were talking about.
Yes,
the bald guy behind me. That's Rob.
Okay.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Incredible. There we go.
That's him. Up and there's the Lucasfilm crew eating Kentucky Fried Chicken.
There's the KFC. There it is.
There's Ray Park. I see Ray Park in the blue Adidas shirt right there.
Yeah.
Oh,
we asked them what they wanted, and so we sent people out to get Kentucky Fried Chicken or Pizza Hut or whatever. So they went and got them all out.
How amazing!
That's right.
Oh, there's the X-wing. There's the exact X-wing
there it
you're
is.
talking about.
Yep, that's
there
the
it
X-wing.
is.
Wow.
Yep,
man,
and it's even more impressive in real life. I mean, it's just it's stunning. It really is stunning.
All the statues you can find on Facebook Marketplace now.
Yeah,
which I love. Which I love.
I'm still, man. I'm still waiting to find me a Jar Jar Owato. I'm still waiting.
But in the bottom of every slide, and these slideshows will be posted at the in the description of the video. But there's the link to the actual photos if anyone wants to go back and actually click through them. And
awesome.
Yeah, and it's so cool to see. At this point, it really was just original trilogy cosplaying. And I know the 501st, I don't think technically existed at this
501st didn't exist at that point.
Wow.
Yeah,
No.
that's crazy.
Yeah,
cosplaying was just like very new at that point.
Oh,
right?
So, absolutely. Yeah,
like,
501st had not started officially at that point.
Oh, incredible. Here's one thing. Apparently this is an after party one of the days. I don't know which day it was, but I see Scott Chernoff there.
There was we put on a party the first night for all the licensees and everybody. Yeah, there we are. That was taken at the party. But one of the nights we had you could buy tickets separately for it was the Jar Jar Jam.
Oh, we got that coming up. We got that coming up.
I'll wait to talk about that until we get to the picture.
That's all right.
More high detail photos of the X-Wing as well, which is so cool to see.
Mind-boggling.
Oh, wow. I would love to see that in person.
That's so detailed.
Okay, so this is the main stage, right?
That's the main stage. Yep.
Okay, cool. And there's a lot of photos from this era, but there's some blurry ones that I found. But yeah, this is, I believe, the right when it started, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that is right when it started. Yeah, that was Jim Ward who came out and welcomed everybody from Lucasfilm.
So at this time, Dan, were you like doing like putting out fires, or were you could you enjoy a little bit of it?
Very little of it, because I was primarily putting out fires. I mean, it was
right.
It was, you know, I had my walkie-talkie, and everybody was like, Dan, you need to come here. Dan, we need something here. And so I was kind of all over the place. I didn't have much of an opportunity to sit and just enjoy watching the show. So, yeah, it was a lot of work. And, but, you know, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'd do it all over again. I'd just ask for the rains to not come.
So, okay, that's a question I actually, one of our fans submitted this question, and I love it. It's from our friend Alden Diaz. He has a great show called Octa Radio. And this question was, what from the first celebration do you wish you could run back now with today's resources, technology, and venue? Is there anything you would want to do differently with the stuff we have today? Would you have wanted to be live streamed, for example?
Yes. Yes, I would have loved to have it been live streamed so that people all over the world could have watched it. That would be the one thing that I would have loved, is had it. And you know, at that time there was no such thing as live streaming. So I would have loved to have had that opportunity for our first event.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like looking at these photos, and like we said earlier, there's no videos of it. So like to be able to like even hear what that room felt like would have been amazing.
It went crazy. You know, I mean, and you know, I'll never forget one moment. You know, we showed scenes from episode 1 on the big screen there, and nobody had seen these scenes that we were showing them. But the one moment when, you know, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are standing there, and the big doors open, and there's Darth Maul standing there in his black cloak, and you see him pull his cloak back, and he drops it off, and then you see him take out his lightsaber. And then the one end comes out, but then all of a sudden that other end comes out. Man, I'm telling you what, the audience roared and cheered like you cannot believe. That was probably one of the coolest moments to be at Celebration 1. They just went wild when they saw the double-ended lightsaber.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's the moments you live for. Still, to this day, the moments at Celebration when you can all collectively, as a community, just lose your absolute mind over something.
So, Dan, I guess I have to bring it up now. We have a viral video on our page that kind of that kind of, you know, it's one of those ones that most people have seen before, and you may have seen it. But when they did the Rise of Skywalker trailer in 2019, there's a reaction video that I put together, and it's of the crowd reacting, and it's obviously the first trailer when we found out the title of the movie, all of that. But it was when they revealed that Ian McDiarmid was going to come back and play Palpatine with the laugh and everything, and like that, the energy of that video alone is what I mean. It's got 6 million views. I mean, people love to experience that energy, and you know, funny enough, I'd imagine you, when you were putting this on, could have never imagined what it led to. And the people that were here, obviously, I mean, you've got Rick McCallum, you've got Steve Sansweet right there. You've got, what was his name? Howard, Rothman. Yeah. And you've got John Knoll. Like,
you say there's John.
So incredible.
He's a legend. I mean, I mean, it's just, you know, I mean, you know, we weren't doing this with the thought that there would be any others after it. Maybe we thought on episode 2, they might do another, but this was kind of like a one-off. We figured this was the one convention that would kick off all the new prequels. And so there wasn't any thought or discussion at the time of, we need to do one of these every 2 years or something to that effect.
Yeah. But even the guest then, like some people haven't been back since. I don't think Pernilla August has done a celebration since this one. And
no, I think this was the only one. This was the only one she did.
It's just, I don't know. It's just such a picture of the time. I love this. Is Anthony Daniels and Jake Lloyd having a lightsaber duel.
Beautiful.
And you know, I know you're friends with Clayton Sandell as well. And I want to say this for people who are watching. There was an update on Jake Lloyd that Clayton had done, and Jake Lloyd apparently is doing really well mental health wise, and that nothing makes me happier. I couldn't imagine.
Well, and still a big Star Wars fan. Still a big Star Wars fan too, which was
that article. That article by Clayton was brilliant, and it really showed His mom was really brave to talk to Clayton and
Yeah.
let everyone know how he's coming along, and he's doing very well these days, which is just I'm so grateful to hear that.
Yeah,
Well,
and
that's a
apparently,
load off of the collective fandom of
Yeah.
this movie and everything's just mine. So everyone, we heard all these stories of this poor child who was belittled by adults and stuff, but just to get the real story it meant the world. It absolutely meant the world.
It really
And-
did. It really did.
I just love this is his family right there.
This is a
and
beautiful shot.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just
Isn't that
These
awesome?
are really good. I love these.
Yeah, it's awesome, and his family really enjoyed it. There's the legend Ben Burt.
There he is. Love that tie.
The pod race scene. And look, Dan, did you end up seeing it the Phantom Menace in theaters these last couple of weeks? Did you go see it?
I did, and it was so amazing. I didn't
It's
realize
incredible.
I would enjoy it as much as I did, and I did. It was just it's like I said, it still holds up. It still is a movie that I think still looks good. It works well. It's held up over time, and that's one of the things that I love most about it.
And the
Absolutely.
pod race
The
scene in particular.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely
incredible. I got to see it in Dolby Atmos, which was incredible. I got to actually take my little one. I have a daughter now, and she was just on the edge of her seat at the end of the three-way battle in space. And it's incredible that we can share this with that next generation now. And like you said, it still holds up.
Yeah, that's one of the best parts about it is that each generation finds something new in Star Wars. And yeah, I mean, and now people love Jar Jar. He's, boy, at the time I can remember
That's
the hate
our man Ahmed.
But now it's Jar Jar has become more beloved than I've ever seen him in the last 25 years.
He is our podcast logo. I mean, you can see it right next to my
say,
face. Like
there you go.
But like it's funny
He's our boy.
we Jerry and I have always bonded over the sillier aspect, the more pulpy aspect of Star Wars. And so like Ahmed Best and that character, I mean, embodies that fun side for kids, and even Darth Maul to a certain extent, like the over the top action scene. You can see Ray Park still does the same stuff he does at every celebration. He's a martial artist, and so
absolutely.
This is from the B stage, if I'm not mistaken, right? Okay.
Yep. That Scott Turniff was host of, and Scott, I can't say enough nice things about Scott. He did such an amazing job, and he kind of came in off the cuff at the last minute, and I mean, he was just brilliant. Scott saved the B stage. He really did.
Oh, it's amazing. And look at Warwick, who has now a huge celebration legacy.
Yeah,
unbelievably big legacy.
Massive. I know. Yep.
Oh man, Rick. This is so cool. And I love how, you look at this and it's just a tint. You know what I mean? It's nothing crazy.
That's what I'm saying. It was done by fans for fans. It was, down and dirty, and that's the way it was, There we go.
Here we are.
Oh, okay, Dan, were you at this? Did you attend this event?
I was. I did. Oh. Yes, we had big giant Greyhound buses that you could buy tickets for it, and we picked everybody up at a certain spot and took them downtown. It was in a old Jewish synagogue, and it was in the basement where they had this big stage. And I mean, we had Ahmed Best rapping with his band, and
That's
everybody
incredible.
was jamming with him. And then Ray Park got up there and he jammed with Ahmed, and several of the celebrities from Celebration 1 were there. It was one of those things that you won't see that kind of thing ever again, because it was intimate, it was small, it was unique. The venue it was in was unusual, and that it was at a place and time that you won't ever be able to go back to now.
I think honestly, Dan,
Incredible.
if I had a time machine, I would have gone back to this moment. Like
The
experience, the whole celebration would be one thing, but if I had to choose a particular moment, this just looks so ideal.
The Jar Jar jam.
It was incredible. It really was. And as I said, some of the celebrities were just walking around mingling with the audience there. I mean, it was incredible. I have to admit that, and I have to give credit to my editor at the time of Star Wars Insider, which was John Snyder. This was his idea, this event. And he came to me and said, I think this would be awesome. We should do something like that. And so he discussed it with me, and I loved his idea. And so we decided to go ahead and make it a separate event that came with Celebration. You had to buy a separate ticket to go to the Jar Jar Jam.
Right.
And we sold out so fast. I mean, unfortunately, we had to turn people away because there's only so many people that were allowed into this venue, and for fire reasons and such. So we had to cut off the ticket sales once we reached the maximum.
Oh, it's amazing.
That's
And
incredible.
Ahmed still plays music, which is
Incredible.
awesome. Now, I
I
want to
know.
ask you
Yes.
about this. I found this. I don't know if this is legit. What is this? The Star Wars backbeats. Was this have to do anything with the event, or did I just find some weird?
No, that doesn't have anything to do with the event, as far as
Okay.
I know. I've never seen that before. I've never seen that before.
And it's
We,
really
we thought it was
weird
piped
remixes.
in or something.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody recorded it at the Jar Jar Jam and put it on this, I maybe, but I had nothing to do with that.
Okay, good. I just thought I'd ask. But of course, I took this picture on when I went and saw the Phantom Menace, and I would love to hear a little bit more about this moment of you being able to be in a movie that obviously you built the hype towards. Like it's amazing.
Well, it was a dream come true because as a 15-year-old kid watching Star Wars, never would I have imagined that I would get to be in one of these movies someday. But it was shot on the back lot at Leavesden Studios, and it's so funny because it gave me a firsthand class on just exactly how special effects add to a movie. That scene you're looking at right there.
Yeah.
There was none of the CG stuff, of course, was there. I mean, all the Gungans that are standing there were guys in white jumpsuits, just basically standing in place for where they'd add the CG Gungans.
Wow.
And I had nothing. I had no idea what I was grabbing. I came out and I asked the director and George. I said, "What is it that I'm grabbing up?" And they said, "Well, imagine a cross between a dinosaur and a chicken." And he said, "There you go." So I did the best I could, and it kind of does look like a dinosaur.
It looks good. It
Yeah,
does.
so I just went out there. I had a mark that on the ground that I had to run out to, and I just reached up and got the reins of whatever the hell it was that was coming down the and I at the time I didn't even realize it was Jar Jar's beast. That wasn't
Right.
It hadn't been revealed to me, but yeah, it's so amazing, and the background, they added a lot to the background. There might have been maybe 100 extras standing out there watching the parade. They turned that into thousands, and balloons and confetti coming down, which weren't there at the time. So yeah, it was just it really gave me a good idea of movie magic, what special effects can do.
Oh, and it's so cool to know that
Beautiful.
George was like, "Yeah, go ahead." You were here because you were probably visiting it for Insider, I'd imagine.
I was there. I was
there you
there
go.
for a week doing getting a library of interviews and memories and such to utilize in the Star Wars Insider. And I was told that they wanted to give me a cameo, and so I got there, and they measured me and fit me for my own costume, and I had to stay an extra week because they didn't get all the shots they needed, and they needed me to stay an additional week so that I could do what I was doing there. So yeah, I ended up spending 2 weeks there on the set of Leavesden instead of 1 week, which was originally planned. And
Wow.
Yeah.
it was a wild time, man. I got to tell you, I came back to Lucasfilm years later, and I said, "Hey, is there any way that I can get my costume, from the movie?" I said, "I'll buy it, whatever." I said, "I'd just like to pass it down to my descendants, and unfortunately, they said it's a no-go. The costume is in the Lucasfilm archives where it will stay until who knows how long. So somewhere in the Lucasfilm archives,
till the sun goes out.
Yeah, it's a little costume, green guy's costume that nobody else could fit into because I have an unusual shape. So it's there.
Wow, how incredible is that?
You almost imagine like them pushing the Ark into the into what we now know as Area 51.
When
or something,
the first time I went, I got to go twice. I got to go out to the Lucasfilm archives, at Skywalker Ranch. And
Yeah.
first time I was there, I got to see the actual Ark of the Covenant, which was pretty damn cool. To stand there and touch it and look at it, the whole thing.
I heard you're not supposed to touch it, though. No, I'm sorry.
I touched it. Well, you know what? I'll tell you something. I did make a mistake. I was on the set, and in the scene with the Jedi Council, and nobody was there. It was closed down, and I was walking with I can't remember who. Somebody was touring me around from Lucasfilm, and the Yoda puppet was sitting there in the chair, And so I went over and I said, "Oh wow, so this is the new Yoda." And I'm looking at him, and I went and I touched his cheek, and you're like, "Oh no, don't touch it," because apparently he had this kind of almost like tacky, greasy stuff, and if you put your finger on it, you'd see your fingerprint. And so I put my hand away real quick. So somewhere on that model, if it's somewhere in the archives, there's my fingerprint on his cheek.
Yeah, forever.
Forever.
So
that's incredible.
To wrap this whole thing up, I gotta say this: there is a legacy now to this event, and I know Jerry and I talked about that's the event where we met at and became friends. And literally, Dan, I wish I could explain to you, like Jerry married me and my wife last year, so like the friendship is just, I mean, it's just, and it's a lot of us. There's a group of us that talk every day that all meet every day that all met up at Celebration in 2019 and 2022.
Of quite a few came to the wedding that I officiated and everything for them, and it was
that's
all because of Celebration.
That's what
that's exactly right.
But I wanted we got to acknowledge your legacy here, and this is
there you go.
There it is. This is the Star Wars
Woodstock. Yep.
And it's cool. Someone took and cataloged everything in terms of what was like revealed at the time. And I don't know what this brochure is.
DJ, she's the one, she reached out to me, and I talked to her and gave her all kinds of stuff. And I just love that little booklet. It's so well done. It's got this kind of funky, cool, retro look to it. And she really did her homework, because if you read through that whole thing, you really get a feel for kind of what it was. And I love this. This just came out several months ago. And she did an absolutely brilliant job on it.
So cool. I
get my hands on one of these.
I have to reach out to Cora DJ.
It's even got the special editions, which were my jam. As a child, I got to see all of them in the theater. That was the first time.
That's right.
Look at that.
Yeah, there's a lot of information in that little booklet, let me tell you.
That's awesome. And it does have that like passed out at a college campus kind of feel to it. You know what I mean?
It really does. Yeah, it's got a very vintage feel to it. It's all kind of hand-done, fanzine kind of like, Oh, there you go. See the sketch right there?
Oh, that's
the sketch.
Wow.
That is the black and white sketch, the final black and white sketch that John Alvin sent me, that Steve Sansweet bought for me. And that was at Celebration Chicago. And I'm taking a picture pointing to it. But yeah, that's the original black and white sketch that John Alvin sent me, that I signed off on to say, okay, that's good. Go to the major color now.
Wow.
That's gorgeous. That is gorgeous.
So yeah.
And now I'm realizing I probably walked past that because I went through that booth in Chicago.
Yeah.
And look, there's you and Anthony Daniels just hanging out.
My buddy Anthony.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and this is another one of you and Steve.
And my other buddy, Steve Sansweet, who we couldn't have done the event without as well. Steve is one heck of a guy, and he came and helped write the whole script for the whole celebration. And he came like within a week of celebration starting, and he was director of fan relations for Lucasfilm at that time. And between Steve and Anthony, I couldn't have done it without those two guys. They were essential to having Celebration come off as it did.
God, it's amazing. And there's a couple other things too in this that I love. So this is when they acknowledged you at the Phantom Menace panel, the 20th anniversary panel. We're gonna actually watch a clip from that in a second as well. But I just love that you're still friends with these people that you did, because some people, they do a Star Wars and it could be anyone, and they'll just be like, okay, I'm done. I can step away from this now. But you clearly still love it. You still enjoy it.
Oh, I do. I still love Star Wars. Yeah, and unfortunately, there's Warwick's wife, Davis's wife behind me, who just passed away about 3 weeks, a month ago. She was such a wonderful human being, good friend to my wife and I, and I feel so horrible for Warwick and the kids.
Yeah.
And I know that event meant a lot to them as a family too. And I know Warwick's son was in The Rise of Skywalker. So like it's it just means so much more to them now. And
It does.
I just love looking at this image right here because, you know, we looked at Ahmed as a young man, you know, fresh and young, and, you know, just so eager to be in Star Wars, and he had never been to a celebration until this one. And it's just,
and
it's
he got
amazing.
a standing ovation when he came out. I mean, he felt the love of everyone at this event, and it was well overdue. And
Yes.
that's a very important moment when he came out and everybody gave him a standing ovation.
I agree. And
I was on the floor as well when he came out on the live stage. And I mean, everyone just like seeped in from any booth. Everyone just came towards the center of that room, clapping and applauding that man. And nobody deserves it more. That was absolutely deserved.
He really doesn't. He's such a nice guy. I think anybody who's ever met him would tell you that. He's just such a nice guy.
So I'm going to show a clip now from that panel of when you were acknowledged at the event. And I love what Anthony says about you. So we're going to watch this clip real quick.
But it was quite a remote experience. And I didn't, in fact, meet many members of the cast until that first celebration, all those 20 years ago now. And that's where you and I were on stage together. I always remember you were fantastic. You walked out and just took over the whole thing. But actually, I forgave him. It was actually, it gave me a few minutes break. I was so grateful. But just to take, all those people were there, and I know some of you were there at the original celebration. Wait a minute, wait for it, because down here to my left is the producer, the guy who put it all together for you, and he's just going to stand up. You won't be able to see him from where you are, but Dan Madsen, ladies and gentlemen.
That's an incredible acknowledgement.
Yeah.
You can see there's a guy, if you can look very closely towards the right of the screen, there's a guy wearing his celebration shirt. I could see it. It's the white t-shirt.
Awesome. That's
cool. With the black, Oh, this is the kind of that gets me. And I'm a pretty emotional guy, but like, you really did do something incredible for that event. And Anthony will go on to talk more about it. We'll keep watching some more of it.
We wouldn't be here today without Dan's original inspiration. And I love you for it, and they do too, Dan. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. It's a bit different to those tents, isn't it?
Yeah, we talked a bit about it yesterday. To people who weren't there, it was like being in a war zone. We were drenched. We were walking in mud. And do you remember how everybody was smiling? You were there.
Yeah, everybody seemed to love being dirty as long as you were.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, that was it.
That was it.
That was crazy.
And you know, guys, if you weren't there, what's that? Ian, wake up. Yes.
Just traumatized.
No, what's the Shakespeare play where somebody says those people now abed in England will hold them manhood deep, that they weren't there?
Etc. No, they weren't. Henry V, I think.
It was Henry V or something. It's St. Crispin's Day. It was like this band of brothers, right?
Hello, Fonzo.
Oh, look at that. Remember that, Ray?
I remember that.
The Jar Jar Jam.
When I thought I could actually that was fun.
Those were
a Wookiee shirt. That was my favorite shirt.
Yeah.
There is Dan and me.
And you've still got the same jacket.
I have, but I don't have the same hair, unfortunately. Look, I have black hair there.
I remember a couple of Klingons crashed in Denver, really? And I don't think they got out alive. They got destroyed. It's frightening.
Yeah. Absolutely. Good times in Denver.
Oh, man. Dan, I mean,
so wonderful.
I can't thank you enough for taking the time and being here tonight to look and reflect on this event. And I guess I should ask you got any plans to go to the Japan one, maybe? Or
I'm hoping to make it to the Japan one. We'll see. It'd be nice if I could be there. So neither my wife or I have been to Japan. So that would be a special one. All right.
I agree. Well, I will be there. I've got my tickets, so I will gladly take a moment and visit with you.
I would love that.
Dan, is there anything you'd like to plug or talk about before we wrap this whole thing up this evening?
For me, did you say?
Yeah, for you.
Oh,
yeah.
for me. Sure. You know, I mean, I'm just so elated that 25 years later, the Phantom Menace is being remembered and with fondness and with love. And it was a great time to be a Star Wars fan. It was a great time to run all the things I did officially for Lucasfilm. It was, you know, such an amazing time to be involved in the Star Wars films, being the first one of the new films coming back. So, yeah, I'm elated, and I'm just so grateful that I had that opportunity in my life. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity that'll never come again. So I cherish all those memories very much.
Well, that's amazing.
Incredible.
Thank you for coming and sharing a bit of your story here this evening, because I love being able to have this documented in a way that hasn't been seen before. So I thank you for your time this evening, Dan. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Will you be checking out The Acolyte next week when it comes out on Disney Plus?
Are you kidding me? Of course I will.
Well, we're all going to be, we don't have to get up at 4 a.m. for this one. This one's going to be like prime time. So there we go. Yeah, there we go. On Tuesday. We're going to be there.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining this evening. Next week, we're going to start covering The Acolyte until mid-July. So check it out. We've got a special guest host, Joe Organa, as our special guest host. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Jerry, you have anything you want to plug? Maybe Ionized Bastards?
Oh, yeah. We'll check out our Star Wars RPG show over on a good friend of the show, Michael McCoy, or McBoy, as we call him around here, on All Remaining Systems YouTube channel. And yeah, go check it out. It is Guardians of the Galaxy meets Star Wars, Ionized Bastards. We have a lot of fun with it. And you know what, Scotty, I think that we should let Dan do our big sign off. Don't you think?
So Dan, right next to your face, the Blockbuster logo you can see right there. We have a catchphrase we've been doing for years now. It's Stay Bombad. Can we get a good Stay Bombad to wrap this thing up, Dan, from you?
Absolutely. Guys, everybody, stay Bombad.
Yes. All right, y'all have a great evening.
Did you say impossible? Pasquale? Only kidding, Chucky. I've changed my tune because I finally thought of a possible dream that we can all share.
What is it? Pasquale?
It's a dream about a world when nobody is poor or sick or hungry.
Oh, now that's a dream we can make come true.
I'm gonna make a change for once in my life. It's gonna feel real good, gonna make a difference, gonna make it right.
As I point up the collar on my favorite winter coat, this wind is blowing my mind.
I see the kids in the street with not enough to eat. Who am I to be blind, pretending not to see their need? A summer's disregard, a broken bottle top,
and a one-man soul. They follow each other on the wind, you know, 'cause they got nowhere to go. That's why I want you to know I'm starting with a man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways, and no message could have been any clearer.
If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change.
I'm starting with the man in the mirror.
Oh yeah,
I'm asking him to change his ways. Come on, change.
no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Oh yeah,
I'm asking him to change his ways.
no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change.
Time for us to take a break, but we wouldn't dream of being gone for long. See you in a little bit.